It is the wild, wild west. It's a new frontier. You should be educated, but I can promise you, anyone who's going to take the time to learn, the dividends will pay off. And it may not even be in Web3. It could be in some other personal area of your life. But that curiosity of learning and reimagining what can be done, as we're saying, we're starting to own the internet, is really impactful. And I think we're going to just really continue to see a lot of innovation. And so I'm excited to see VeeFriends continue to innovate in Web3, but also new creators, new founders, new builders show other ways we can utilize blockchain technology to empower and build communities.
NFTs are redefining the cryptocurrency landscape and taking the world by storm. This is Ashley Smith from Fame Lady Squad, and I want to welcome you to From the Blockchain. As leaders of an all-female avatar NFT project, we want to share our insight and industry knowledge with you. We want to empower more women to participate and dominate in the NFT space. So whether you're an early adopter or just a curious learner, we hope you join us to explore the exciting world of NFTs. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to From the Blockchain. This is your girl, Ashley Smith, also known sometimes as Bored Becky. I am so excited for today's episode. This is one of our wish list guests. We spoke with Andy Krainak of VeeFriends. He's someone that I've had the chance of meeting in real life a little bit and have gotten to know a tiny bit, but mostly have admired from afar for all the work that he's been doing in the VeeFriends world. I know we talk about Gary Vee probably a bit too much on this show, but he's just a common thread amongst many people that we've spoken to on the show, really introduced them to NFTs, blockchain, Web3, etc. I am no exception. My very, very first NFT, and the reason I bought crypto for the very first time was to purchase my first VeeFriends when it launched. So it was really just a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak with Andy. Andy, let me tell you a little bit more about him because we don't get into his bio too much. And I think it's important that you know a little bit about Andy. So Andy Krainak serves as the president of VeeFriends, an intellectual property company built through NFT technology that is one of the world's top projects created by its chairman, Gary Vaynerchuk. VeeFriends has amassed more than $240 million since its launch in May of 2021. Andy has been with the company since its inception, launching VeeFriends Series 1, Series 2, and the record-breaking Book Games drop that was one of the largest NFT token drops in the world, which was 125,000 tokens. Andy has supported the company's expansion from an NFT project to an intellectual property company, and he now oversees a team of more than 40 executives, including the tech, marketing, communications, media, events, partnerships, collectibles, and creative teams. So it really goes to show you his breadth of knowledge and experience and all of the things he's touching in this space. Taking from his experience in building brands, and Andy also launched notable partnerships such as Macy's, Toys R Us, Reebok, VBOK, and Mattel's Uno card game. In addition, he led a first of its kind Web3 conference, VeeCon, where nearly 7,000 guests gathered in Minneapolis in 2022. The company is now focused around building its IP across different multimedia platforms, including physical and digital spaces. I think it's important. So I'm recording this intro first week of April, almost second week. And the conversation I had with Andy was a couple weeks ago now, and we are getting ready for VeeCon 2023. So I'm very excited for that conference. I do plan to attend it. And you guys, obviously I'm a Gary Vee fan. I'm a VeeFriends fan. Full disclosure, of course, I own many VeeFriends, Series 1, 2, Book Games, all the things. This is not financial advice. Do your own research. I do think that, VeeFriends is an interesting example of a company being built kind of native to Web3 and integrating a lot of the cool things that are coming from the technology. But I do think it's one for folks to, I'm not suggesting you invest in it. And I don't even like the term investment when we talk about NFTs, but, I'm not suggesting you financially get involved. But I do think it's a company to watch. I do think that looking at getting tickets to VeeCon might be worthwhile this year. We dive a little bit into it in this conversation you're about to listen to. More focused on business, entrepreneurialism, and it has Web3 kind of intertwined throughout, but it's not so much of an NFT focused event, which I think is just great. I think it's going to bring a lot of value to a lot of people, and also keeping in mind kind of the emerging technologies and what folks should be thinking about as they build and develop their businesses. So I think that's really cool. I'm super excited, and I hope to give you all a recap after that event. There's a lot to say about Andy and some of the things he's done. He will get into some of his history and experience in our convo. So I'll let him speak to that. So why don't we get into the convo? Before we do, I do want to thank our sponsor, Daz 3D, as a leader in 3D technology since 2000. Daz 3D empowers 3D artists and designers with a free comprehensive software suite and a massive 3D marketplace with over 5 million intercompatible assets for Daz Studio and other 3D applications. They offer hobbyists and professionals the tools they need to create high quality 3D renders and animations featuring customizable content that can be exported anywhere. So thank you, Daz 3D, for allowing us to continue rolling from the blockchain. We are so proud to be able to bring such wonderful guests, such as the president of VeeFriends, Andy Krainak. And I will say, if you want to continue hearing amazing guests such as Andy on this show, please make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. It helps us bring on wonderful guests, and share the episodes. And if you happen to be on a platform that allows reviews, add some reviews. That would be much appreciated. All right, without further ado, let's jump right into the show. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Andy Krainak, president of VeeFriends. Hello, Andy. Welcome to From the Blockchain. I appreciate you so much being here with me today. You have been for a long time a wish list guest for our podcast because we know you can bring so much value to our audience. Andy, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm humbled by those kind words. I'm doing very well. Thank you for saying that, and thank you for inviting me on your podcast.
Hey, well, I know you must be super busy. There's a lot going on in your world. There's a lot going on in the Web3 world that I think, as folks deeply involved in anything, things are changing every day. The landscape is changing every day, but you also have some big initiatives and things going on as we speak. Now, of course, you are president of VeeFriends. What started as an NFT collection and has really been built out into a much larger business and entity and intellectual property foundation, which I think, Gary Vaynerchuk had envisioned all along. I will say, full disclosure, upfront to our audience listening, I am a holder of VeeFriends. This is not financial advice. I obviously have a lot of belief in what you guys are working on. It was my very first NFT that I purchased. It's why I got into this crazy world. I have bought more than several VeeFriends since. It's actually my most recent purchase. I bought the debt a few times. But VeeCon is coming. At the time of this recording, it's mid-March. VeeCon's coming fairly soon in May. So Andy, first of all, welcome to the show. People don't want to hear from me, but I think it's important people know my relationship with VeeFriends as a holder. I'd love to dive into, first of all, let's know a little bit about you before we dive into VeeFriends. So, what is your business background? What were you doing professionally? And tell us about kind of the beginning of your Web3 journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Before joining VeeFriends as the president of the company, I worked at VaynerX, Gary's digital marketing agency, and I was his personal brand director. So I oversaw the media and content behind the man, Gary Vee, for almost 8 years. I started at VaynerMedia in 2013, prior to Facebook ads coming out, prior to Facebook having video. Instagram was pretty nascent at the time. So over the course of 8 years, I've really seen, the boom of Web2 and Amazon and Twitter and Facebook and TikTok, and just how to best market and storytell against those platforms. And that's really been the skill set that I've leaned in with Gary's content and his messaging. And it's been an amazing journey. I'm so grateful to have been at what I feel was like the center of that era of really starting to document and create and vlog. And it's funny now to see how far we've come. Sometimes I have to pinch myself and realize that it wasn't so long ago that anyone being followed around with a camera really, really would have gotten stopped. Now you might get like questioned, but it's almost become like a common thing. Like, oh, they're probably YouTubing or vlogging, and people can see it as an everyday thing. So and I've done that for 8 years, and I can go on and on about the lessons that I've learned and fun tidbits, behind the scenes stories of the evolution of VaynerMedia as a digital marketing company. But shortly before VeeFriends launched, Gary became obsessed with Web3.
Yeah.
You know, I've worked for him for almost 9 years at that point. And he'll always, I describe Gary as almost like a cultural anthropologist, because he will really, you know, you can give him a headline and he'll get it. And he's always studying. You know, I don't say it lightly, but I do think he could be in the running for having read the most comments on social media.
Right.
Because he's studying, you know, good, bad, pros, cons, pop singer, hip hop artist, new technology, entrepreneur. He's just consuming, not necessarily the headlines, but what the audience is saying about the headlines. And that's how he's able to navigate his businesses. And so through that process, I've seen him get really hot on something, and then like 2 weeks later, he's not even thinking about it anymore because he got what he needed out of it.
Right.
But when Web3 was happening, he basically shut down for 3 months and was only having conversations with people who had been in the space for a long time, building in crypto, building in Web3, trying to really, really understand what the technology was and what they were thinking the future was going to hold. And then shortly thereafter, I was in a transition point in my career where I wanted something different. I wanted more challenges outside of just overseeing the GaryVee content machine. And it mapped perfectly with Gary saying he wanted to create an NFT company called VeeFriends. So him and I sort of just locked in and envisioned, and I helped take part in the creation of VeeFriends.
Awesome. It might be worth me mentioning, earlier last year, we did have Avery Akinini on the show, who's president of Vayner3. And I would just encourage our audience to go back. It's obviously a little dated now, but it can provide a lot of context, I think, for the audience to understand sort of some of the thinking, I think, behind even why Web3 matters and why building, you know, out of this infrastructure that's really been media and brand driven, and kind of, I think, can lead into some of the thinking with VeeFriends. So I would encourage our audience to go and listen to that episode if you haven't already. It's one of my favorite episodes to date. But I think it's important for our audience, just in case, to have a good kind of overview of what is VeeFriends. And I think that means a little bit about what is the vision behind VeeFriends, but also some of the more practical, like, you know, there's VeeFriends 1, VeeFriends 2. What does that ecosystem look like before we dive in a little bit deeper?
For sure. So the thesis of VeeFriends, you know, Gary wanted to create a blueprint. I would say I'm surprised today at how little how few of players I've seen come in the space from what I would have anticipated. Meaning, like, I would have anticipated another really big A-list celebrity, maybe not Taylor Swift, but something like that, to create an NFT project which was rooted in access. Things that money can't really buy unless you want to take the time to do so. So VeeFriends was created as a way to create access to Gary himself, one-on-one access. There's FaceTime calls. There's jam session snails where you actually spend like 3 hours just going back and forth and dissecting your business and the opportunities that you're trying to build and create for yourself. And then access to a 3-year conference known as VeeCon. We had the first VeeCon in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The next one is coming up again in May in Indianapolis. And then we are committed to doing VeeCon 2024 at a to be announced location. And then aside from creating that utility on the blockchain, we are creating an IP company. Mm-hmm. The VeeFriends characters, there's 283 of them. Mm-hmm. They were first issued and created as IP on the blockchain on Ethereum. And then now, and over the course of the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, we are going to continue to storytell with them. We have so many characters where I feel like that's one of the challenges we have. Mm-hmm. But it's exciting. All the characters Gary drew himself. And that is what we know as VeeFriends Series 1. Mm-hmm. They're the OG, they're the blueprint, they're the sketch drawing of what is to come.
Yeah.
And then a year later, we dropped VeeFriends Series 2, where 251 of those characters evolved into their new form factor, mm-hmm. just fully illustrated, colored with different scenes as well. Mm-hmm. And that's lent itself to more of our opportunities to storytell, animate, and hopefully create some other games.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah. And I would recommend for those of you who this is new to, you haven't spent much time looking at it, go and take a look and refer to these collections to kind of get a sense of this evolution. I can't help myself. I can't remember the name of the show. I should have looked it up. But I forgot that it was on my mind. But there's a Netflix series, like the games that built us or the toys that built us, and really seeing how intellectual property can be developed out of one core thing. So toys, as an example, was the foundation for a lot of cartoons that I'm an elder millennial. So like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like He-Man, all of those sorts of things, and how one aspect of the business really brought out so many other interesting opportunities and gave folks an opportunity to fall in love with those characters and how they evolve over time. And it's funny to watch, for example, how Star Trek characters looked at one point versus another, as an example. And obviously VeeFriends Series 2, the characters are very cute and a little more polished than the originals. But I think there's also maybe value in sharing just some of the value system behind VeeFriends, like, the characters themselves, what they represent. We obviously don't want to go into all of them, but maybe you can give us just a high level, like, what are the priorities with the values of these characters?
Yeah. I mean, VeeFriends characters are built on qualities and traits that have inspired Gary and that he believes can inspire others to be happy. Mm-hmm. And I think happiness is the ambition for VeeFriends community and is the ambition for what we want to represent and stand for. Mm-hmm. And how do you achieve happiness? Well, I think it is rooted in things such as accountability, patience, hard work, curiosity. There's curious crane. There's adventurous astronaut, there's empathetic elephant, courageous cockatoo, hardworking wombat. And then there's some meme characters like To the Moon Meerkat and Hado Hyena. But there's 251 characters that are all named with alliteration mm-hmm. around a positive attribute and trait.
Mm-hmm. And we should maybe mention book games and of the innovation with that.
And Authentic Anaconda, because I know that was the first one that I think you bought.
It wasn't the first one I bought, but it was definitely the most expensive one I bought. And therefore has remained my pinned tweet for a long time.
It's fun for me. I'm always curious. I'm always trying to learn how people first discovered VeeFriends or Gary or what put them on or what resonated with Gary's message to people. And a lot of people will say that it's his authenticity. Mm-hmm. And I think it's so fun playing with the traits, and you very quickly start feeling like you're like an emotional psychologist trying to dissect how one trait leads to the other. Like, in order to be authentic, you really do need to have 4 or 5 other traits working in your favor. You need to be confident. You need to be humble. You need to be courageous in order to have that authenticity shine through.
Absolutely. It's a key trait. I love that trait, and that's why I chose it at the time.
Anaconda. It's a matching background too. A rarity, right?
Yes, it is. Green on green. I needed a green at that time.
Smart.
Now, you know, I think to that point, I wasn't planning it, but I'm just thinking out loud to our audience. When this episode drops, I'll do a Twitter contest giving away maybe one or multiple copies of 12 and a half, because I have a number of Gary's 12 and a half books that speak to a lot of these characteristics and values. So when this drops, check out, you know, my Twitter, and we'll do some giveaways. I think that'll be really fun and introduce some of these concepts to people. So, but I do think, so first of all, just to your point, like when I first bought my first VeeFriend, it was my very first NFT. I had not bought crypto before. I bought crypto in order to, you know, buy my first NFT, which was like a whole process back in 2021 anyway, especially as a Canadian. But, I was very intrigued by this idea of access. You know, I had no idea where the NFT space was going to go the year to follow. I was not really so concerned about speculation in terms of price appreciation. I certainly, like, it was not top of mind. The way the NFT quote unquote market like went was that was a surprise for me. But when I decided to put money into something and talking to my spouse who, you know, he didn't get it at all, I was really comfortable that I was going to get the value out of the purchase. And that was going to be like, I'm going to go to this conference. And if for some reason I can't, then I can, you know, sell the NFT and someone else can go to the conference. And I just felt very comfortable in that entrance into the space because I knew what I was getting. I knew why I was buying it. I wanted to learn more about the technology and how you all were going to figure out how to make those ticketing systems work, for example, which I think you've done really great job with. I think that context matters for folks. But why don't we do we want to talk about VeeCon for a minute? I think we should let everyone know.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of a couple of things. You know, you never are rooting for a down market. No. You know, people ask, like, what do you think about the current market dynamics and future of Web3? The optimistic point of view I have in it, or a different perspective that I take, is that I think it's healthy for everyone because it goes back to the core values of why did you get into it in the first place. Mm-hmm. And for VeeFriends, it's coming to VeeCon and, you know, hopefully building life-lasting relationships. You know, there was someone last year that met their wife at VeeCon. It's real. You know, I'm sure there's other business negotiations, relationships that were formed at VeeCon. And that was what we priced VeeFriends at. And that's what we wanted to create it for outside of future long-term IP building. VeeCon last year, it was such a amazing moment in time, you know, the birth of Web3 formally, like on Twitter, and everyone's talking, learning, getting educated. It was I'll always look back at, you know, 2021 to 2022 with a different lens than I think I'll look at any other moment in my life. And because of that, I would say 90% of the programming at VeeCon last year from a speaker perspective was catered towards Web3. Artists, creators, builders, founders, people that have been operating in the space, sharing their lessons. This year, we are much more focused on VeeCon being a business conference. Executives, CMOs, presidents, founders, people that can share lessons from building and operating businesses. And I'm really excited for it. We have a big speaker announcement coming this week. You know, I think we've announced maybe 60 speakers, 50 speakers to date, and we have another big round coming later this week, which I'm really excited to get the feedback on and get people excited for. And then the real component with VeeCon, which makes it a little bit tricky as we steer the ship further from just being a Web3 NFT conference, is onboarding the 500 people who have hit up VeeCon tickets at VeeCon saying, hey, I want to come, but can you help me get up the wallet again? Which I like for lots of reasons. I think it's good brand building in general to know that we're like helping bring adoption and education to the space. But it's also exciting to know that we're going to have new attendees at VeeCon who are going to be able to network and intermingle with the community and other attendees.
It's funny. If you had asked me in 2021, early 2021, when purchasing my first VeeFriend, I at the time probably would have anticipated VeeCon to have been more of what you're saying now. I think that as the space kind of blew up and some of the other conferences were so well attended and had so much success, it made so much sense to have that theme there. And so I'm actually super excited to have to be able to attend VeeCon and it be touching on a broader range of topics. To be honest, I'm kind of like over, I'm kind of over it. I'm kind of over some of the things we've now heard over, and many of us have been to multiple conferences, right, in the NFT kind of realm. So I think stretching out that theme is wonderful. And I think I'm excited for the people I'm going to see and potentially meet. But to your point, that onboarding part of obtaining the ticket is tough. So for our audience's knowledge, maybe you can explain a little bit just about how the ticketing does work, because I think that'll be valuable for them.
Yep. So if you own a VeeFriend Series 1, you get to come to VeeCon 3 times. 2022, 23, 24. Because of the value of the Series 1 VeeFriends NFTs, we didn't want to require that to be the ticket itself. Mm-hmm. We were having a mobile ticketing app. And in order to log into that mobile ticketing app, you would need to have what people call as a hot wallet, meaning you don't have a cold wallet, which requires double verification, like a Ledger or a Trezor. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So we implemented something where we're actually airdropping a new NFT, which represents the ticket to VeeCon. Mm-hmm. So for this year, tickets came out maybe 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And we airdropped them to everyone who owns a VeeFriend Series 1. Mm-hmm. Now, in order to come to VeeCon, you will have to own a VeeCon ticket, which you could go buy on OpenSea right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm plugging that you don't even need Ethereum anymore. It might be different. I know Texas, I don't think has the option. I'm not sure what's going on in Canada with it, but MoonPay allows you to buy an NFT with your credit card on OpenSea. Yeah, which I like, because the friction of like going to Coinbase to buy Ethereum or another exchange to then send it to that's such a big hurdle for people newly coming into the space. So you have to buy the ticket, and then after you buy the ticket, you'll want to set up your NFT wallet, get your seed phrase safe and secure, all that good stuff, and then you just need to create your VeeFriends account. So we recently launched a new website, which hopefully makes it a little bit easier for people to interact with VeeFriends in our website. So you create an account, and then from there on out, anytime you're interacting with VeeCon and our ticketing app or VeeFriends, you will never need to touch or use your NFT wallet again. You can use username and password, and we'll look at the username and password in real time on the blockchain to identify that, hey, Andy owns the authentic Anaconda. He came to VeeCon. Let's make sure that we send him a thank you card.
That's awesome. And by the way, I did finally get myself set up on the new website. It's seamless. I think anytime you're dealing with your primary like vault wallet, it's always very, very scary. So you did. And speaking of innovation, like we at Fame Lady Squad have been talking about, referenced the website experience that you've created, and this ability to basically verify your wallet without having to interact with the website, because it's so scary. Like I less and less am interested in ever doing anything with my ledger again. Like I just don't. There's just a lot of fear behind that. So kudos to you and your team. You've done a wonderful job. I'm all set up with my couple of wallets now, because I did have my Coinbase wallet from last year still there. So that's great. I'm curious maybe, you know what, I'm going to jump into my ChatGPT question for you right now, actually, because I think it will help set the stage for some of the other things we might want to dive into. And you can kind of take it wherever you want to take it. But ChatGPT asks, as the leader of a leading Web3 company navigating an unknown business landscape, and really what that means is like unprecedented, there's no rules, we're all figuring it out. But anyways, as the leader of a leading Web3 company navigating these waters, how do you balance the pressure for short-term wins, especially with holders, building in public, all of that stuff, with the long-term vision of your company? There's a second half to this question, but I'll leave it at that for now.
Right when shout out ChatGPT, right when you started asking, I was assuming that was going to be the question, because to me it's the question.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the speed and pace of this industry in Web3 is unlike anything else. You know, and I'm coming from the high-paced world of social media marketing and content creation. I think the key is it ends with communication, you know, internally to your company, and creating ways of operational excellence to make sure that everyone's hearing and seeing and saying the same thing, and or having the right amount of conflict and disagreement so that we're actually creating better products for our audience and customers. But it comes down to communication and trying to balance that with strategy, innovation, and delivering things quickly. You know, you have to be doing both, where you have a long-term goals and visions. Long-term can be, you know, this quarter, this year, the next 5 years. But then there has to be short-term goals of ways you're going to continually engage, communicate, support your holders, because they are the lifeline of your brand and everything that you're trying to build and represent.
It's been interesting to watch VeeFriends as the space has evolved, because I think obviously it has one of the largest communities, not just of holders with the extended series and book games, but also just such a large organic community because of you know, Gary Vee and who he is, and the community he's built over the years. So a lot of eyeballs, right? It's been very I don't know what the right word is. It's just been very positive for someone like me to be able to watch that journey and appreciate some of the challenges that come with the space, the inherent challenges that are to be expected, and just knowing that like we're like a mom and pop shop over here, right? And you're a robust system. And some of the parallels and I think allowing not mistakes. I don't even mean that. Allowing learnings along the way, and not getting
mistakes and step backs and missteps. And I can appreciate, like, a lot of it has never been done before. You know, we have a token where if you own that token, you get 18 physical gifts. That's innovation. It's tied to an NFT. We had to think about how we're going to get the addresses and how we're going to make them happy with the gifts that we're doing. And I think, you know, even if you're a VeeFriends, you know, a 50-person organization headquartered in New York City, or your Fame Lady Squad, or you're just an emerging project right now, you're still going to have the underlying truths of like, how do you interact with your community? How do you engage them? How do you market to them? And how do you navigate bumps? But different dynamics of the community. And I've learned a tremendous amount in so many different ways since joining VeeFriends. And of course, the biggest lessons that I've learned are just, again, how integral it is to be knowing your community, hearing your community, and actively strategizing your company around what's happening on the front lines.
I think in expectations, that's the part that's been a weird one, is kind of, and I almost put it in air quotes, like consumer expectations, because some people are community members and some people are kind of in and out or have different ideas of how things should play out, what they should mean. And it's hard to satisfy a diverse set of expectations, right? And that's just the nuance here with this. And so I'm more saying that out loud for our audience, if they're thinking about how they might integrate some of these technologies. It's just the thing that I have to get ahead of and think of. And I know, like, from our perspective, like, we struggle, and even communication, we struggle because people have different ideas what they want to be communicated about with, right?
It's difficult. You know, I think the best thing will always be to just try to be authentic, you know, speak the truth. And then I haven't seen anything like it in Web3. You know, you have a VeeFriends, we have a chat room 24/7 talking about how we're doing.
How do you manage that? Like as an individual professional involved in this, and especially as someone who's leading the way with a team, like how do you manage that consistent movement forward, 24-hour clock, global clock?
Yeah.
How do you manage that personally?
It's a lot. I mean, from, operationally within VeeFriends, I think one of the biggest things that I've really, really understood for the first time now that I'm sitting in the position I'm in is this analogy of clouds and dirt, and how that implies to thinking about managing a business. And I think it's integral. Like the clouds and dirt for me are, clouds is the goal of the macro mission. What are we trying to achieve? And never losing sight of that. Every day I'm waking up thinking, how are we going to build VeeFriends to be the IP company we all want it to be? The dirt is what's happening in my general chat, what's happening in my spec chat, what's happening in my Discord, who are the moderators interacting with the people in the Discord, and do I have the right team to be able to manage a 24/7 chat room 7 days a week? You know, and then like personally, it's just taking time for yourself. I've matured enough where I realized that a vacation was actually a job requirement.
Yeah.
You know, turning my phone off is a job requirement because that's actually what's going to fuel me the next day. I've played the game of like, I got to prove myself. I'm going to work 3 years in a row. And eventually, I don't care who you are, Superman, Batman, Gary Vee, you need to take a break, you know? Go sit on the beach, read, and you'll come back with new ideas, feeling refreshed. It's why I'm so big on IRL events. I feel like everyone can come away from an event or a vacation and be on that plane or the bus ride or the car home and feel different. It's like they have a different lens on the world a little bit, if only for a day. But that one day can spark new ideas and new opportunities.
Before we miss it, I do think just because we really are, focused on the theme of innovation, you touched a bit on some of these access NFTs. And I would love if we could just give like a quick shout out off the top of your head, beyond obviously access to the conference. You mentioned some of the NFTs, the gift goats, mean that you're giving gifts, physical items, or, things outside of the NFT to that holder. You mentioned FaceTime. Can you just give us a quick range of some of these things? Because I think it might spark some ideas for audience, the types of things that these can represent.
Hangout Hawks, I want to shout them out just because I love the Hangout Hawks community. They have their own vibe, if you will, to them. And I think they're always really, really good energy. If you own a Hangout Hawk 5 times a year, you get on a private Zoom with Gary Vee and you guys jam and ask questions. It could be about the roadmap of VeeFriends. It could also be about how you grow your plumbing business. It's for the Hawks to grow and build and connect with Gary and each other. There's Ping Pong Kalong, which if you own that VeeFriends token, you're playing ping pong with Gary once a year. There's Courtside Cat, which as a basketball fan is probably my favorite access token. If you own that token, you get to go courtside to a New York Knicks game with Gary. Basketball Butterfly, you get to play 5-on-5 basketball with Gary. And as another insight, and I said this a lot when this space was first coming out, and people were like, I really want to do an NFT project. I want to do an NFT company. And they're like, all right, I'm going to make a game. I'm going to make an animated short film. And I would say, ask them like, well, is that what you pretend Web3 wasn't here and NFTs weren't here? Is that the company that you would want to build? They're like, no. I'm like, well, then don't do Web3 and NFT. Use Web3 and NFTs to be a layer and a component to your business. And your business should be rooted in your expertise and skills and something you want to spend a lot of time and energy on. And same with access. The basketball and the hangouts and the 85 different FaceTimes. That's how Gary likes spending his time. He loves the one-to-one interaction with his community. He loves playing basketball. He likes ping pong and competition. It's authentic to him. And it's something that he would want to spend his time, which is, again, the only asset that we have. So it makes it easier for him to be like, hey, Gary, you got to go play ping pong today. He's like, great, let's go. You know, versus putting containers around things that you think you need to be doing, but they're not authentic to you.
That's a really good point. And I think it also speaks a lot to this. You know, there was a moment in time where everyone just wanted to create an NFT just to have done it. And maybe back to the point you made early on is kind of getting down to the, like, what problem is this solving, or what value is this creating, and why does this matter? Or why does it need to be an NFT, right? Like, it could be, there's lots of different ways to go about providing services or products, kind of a thing. And so that being said, maybe we can bring this back to the blockchain a little bit, thinking about the value of owning, say, the NFT that's the foundation to the intellectual property. I know that I'm surprised you use the term roadmap, actually, because I feel like that word has been banned. I hate that word. and I'm sure, knowing, you know, being somewhat familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk, listening, you know, I've listened to his podcasts and his talks for a long time, is, you know, might have a certain idea today, but the way it ends up playing out in 10 years might be very, very different. But maybe you can just big picture describe what you think, like, VeeFriends could potentially look like, without obviously committing to any vision, but just examples of where IP growth can go and why anyone would care to, say, own a collectible related to that intellectual property.
The first thing that comes to mind that I'm excited about, that people may or may not know, when you bought a VeeFriends Series 2 on Mint last April, it came with a box of collectible trading cards called Compete and Collect. That has been a huge success. You know, I knew that the community would take hold of the cards and be excited to receive that physical box in exchange for the NFT. And that's really just like with VeeCon and Series 1. We wanted to make sure that people felt like they were getting value immediately. You're buying it because you're going to get a ticket to the conference. You're buying it because you're going to get this box of Compete and Collect physical cards. But the Compete and Collect trading cards have taken a life on their own. And I'm very, very excited. I mean, if you look at eBay right now, the boxes are still selling. There's some really big collectors that are trying to collect every character and the different rarities. But that will be and will continue to be an engine for VeeFriends IP development and growth. You know, I think it's a really good opportunity to lean into the TGC trading card world and try to make a game out of that might garner the interest of young teens, young adults, elementary school kids to play with outside of the NFT. And when they grow up and they realize that they've been playing with these Compete and Collect cards that were actually established first as an NFT, it's going to develop more intrigue and interest. You know? And then ultimately, we'll continue to storytell, whether it's in animated films or short form content on YouTube or children's books or comics. It's going down to, where are you going to try to reach people? You know, what room of the internet are you speaking to? And what stories can you try to tell them that are going to help uplift them or engage them or make them curious or make them wonder what if through the different VeeFriends characters that we have. And, you know, I said earlier, it's a challenge because we have 283, you know, like early on, right after we minted VeeFriends, we started talking to film directors, movie directors, people in Hollywood. And then, like, joking, like, wow, Andy and Gary, you guys really didn't take a break. You know, Pokemon started with like 8 characters. So it's a challenge, but it's also really the opportunity where it doesn't matter what meeting I'm having, whether it's a business collaboration or a creative ideation, we have so many opportunities to storytell because we have just so many characters. There's nothing that we can't make work per se, because, you know, determined dolphin can fit in, or offensive oriented orangutan can slot in. So it's an abundance of opportunities, and I'm just really excited to storytell with these characters. And it's the lifeblood of VeeFriends. You know, we will ride and die with our ability and mission to storytell with the attributes and traits of our characters.
Very cool. You actually touched on something. I'm glad you brought it up because I would have forgot. Just this kind of business development side, these prospective brand partners, corporate partners, or any sort of partnerships. I'd love to know any sort of anecdotes or thoughts that you can provide our audience with. Is like, what are these companies thinking about? You don't need to name them or whatever, but like, what are they thinking about as you're in the room with them talking about potential opportunities in terms of collaboration with a brand and an IP that's being built and in this way? Like, are they focused on Web3 as part of an integral piece and why they want to get involved? Is it like, what are the things that they're prioritizing as they're exploring working with you?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. I think a lot of the brands, NFTs, I would say, are a household name by now.
Mm-hmm.
Web3 is, you may not know anything about it and you might think it's a scam and you're not touching it, but you've heard the name.
Mm-hmm.
So all the brands are curious. They're
Mm-hmm.
interested to learn more, and they feel like it's in their best interest to learn more, or else they might end up as Blockbuster.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I always recommend, and I am a huge proponent of this, the best way for a brand to first join the space is through a collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of the brands are looking for relevance, new audience, ways to tip their toes into the space and get learnings without having to create a whole new department or say outright that they're like launching a Web3 project.
Is there one or two, are there one or two examples that you can maybe give us that would already be in the public realm that have already activated, just to give our audience an idea of the types of things that some brands have done with VeeFriends?
With VeeFriend specifically, for sure. I was thinking about some other examples.
Yeah, or go for it. Yeah, whatever you think is interesting.
Because other examples, I'm not going to be able to best speak to. Uno is the largest game in the world. We collaborated with Mattel, who owns Uno, to create VeeFriends Uno cards. For Mattel, that was, again, I would say, relevancy, a play in relevancy, new audience, and a potential opportunity to catch like one of the most emerging, fastest growing IPs at its infancy. For VeeFriends, it was to establish and manifest our IP for the first time on a tangible physical good. And not just a physical good, but one of the most notable and largest game in history with Uno. So that was like a really good collaboration with us. And I enjoy coming home and playing Uno with my nieces and nephews.
Yeah, that's a great thing to put out there, because this isn't necessarily about companies diving into Web3 directly either. Like, they don't necessarily have to have the experience in that. Let's even say the IT side. Like, that's tough. It's a lot of things. It's a lot to learn. If I had another hour, I'd love to know how VeeFriends is handling all this internally. Like, how do you make sure you have the expertise related to security and just all of that fun stuff? Maybe we can touch on just, as a company, how are you thinking about adding expertise to your team when you're dealing with like a brand new world, and it's tough because their first experience might really be working with you on it?
I mean, I would say it depends on the expertise, right? And I think the expertise depends on whether or not you feel like that's something that you need day in and day out. Like I gave the compete and collect game as an example. We have expertise on our team right now in terms of collectability, secondary marketplaces. But we don't have expertise in like game dynamics, game playing. So we need to go find that expertise. I don't think that's someone that's going to be a lifer at VeeFriends, but they definitely have an arrangement that we can work on in identifying ways to work together. So I think it just comes back to like, I think honestly, the first thing that can fall under the rug sometimes is identifying the need for the expertise.
Right.
When you're moving really fast, you're just trying to get shit done. And then all of a sudden you have a phone call. You're like, oh, wow, like this person really, really, really understands interoperability and like how to create a game which can also use NFTs across other platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's just self-awareness and then strategy on how important that skill set or expertise is for the workings of your company.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, like our time is going by really fast, and I want to respect your time. I would love to know before we close out, given the nature of where we are right now in the like crypto NFT ecosystem and market cycle, what are you most excited about in Web3, and what are you most excited about with VeeFriends?
I'll go VeeFriends first.
Mm-hmm.
VeeFriends, I'm going to beat it to a pulp. I'm most excited about storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I personally am most interested in, and where I find the most joy when I get struck with like a piece of content that I feel like resonated with me or is impactful or feels like it might help others. That's everything to me. That's the magic. I don't care how much money you throw at something. You have to have someone who understands how you make something come to life and connect with people. And that's a skill set and an expertise that we'll continue to learn and grow and develop internally. And then Web3, man, I'm just excited for it, period. And I say that with like a smile and jokingly because it's just going to change every single day. There's going to continue to be updates. I have no idea why Ethereum is 1,700 right now, and 2 days ago it was 14. Like that's a big shift in 2 days' time, but that's goes with the volatility of what's going to continue to happen. It is the wild, wild west. It's a new frontier. You should be educated, but I can promise you, anyone who's going to take the time to learn, the dividends will pay off. And it may not even be in Web3. It could be in some other personal area of your life. But that curiosity of learning and reimagining what can be done, as we're saying, we're starting to own the internet is really impactful. And I think we're going to just really continue to see a lot of innovation. And so I'm excited to see VeeFriends continue to innovate in Web3, but also new creators, new founders, new builders show other ways we can utilize blockchain technology to empower and build communities.
I love that. I feel like that's going to be our intro snippet right there. Appreciate your time so much, Andy. This has been wonderful. I'd love our audience to be able to know where to find and follow you and find and follow VeeFriends. And do know, of course, we'll have these linked in the show notes, so you don't have to get overly specific, but let us know where to find you.
Well, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed this. I'm at Krainak, Krainak, on all my social media. And I would hope that I get to see at least one of you at VeeCon this year. I'll be walking around saying hello, so I would love for you to come by and say that you listen to this podcast. That'd mean a lot to me.
Very cool. Well, you heard it here, everyone. You want to be at VeeCon. I feel comfortable shilling it because I think it's accessible if you don't have your wallet set up and you need help. It sounds like there's some interesting options through MoonPay. By the way, this is not sponsored by them or anything like that, but it's good to know that there's ways to figure all of this out if it's new to you. But I'm so excited for VeeCon. I can't wait. I do happen to have some extra tickets. I'm figuring out what I want to do with them. I haven't decided yet. We were probably going to do a giveaway with it or something of that nature with at least one of them. So excited for VeeCon. Andy, I hope I get to see you again IRL. I'm sure you're going to be a busy guy that week though. So good luck with everything. I know it'll be a wonderful experience. I just hope you get to enjoy it with some downtime. Andy, thank you so much for being on the show and bringing more thought leadership and innovation from the blockchain.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on From the Blockchain. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any questions about today's episode, please send us a message so we can answer it. If you want to learn more about Fame Lady Squad or how you can get involved with NFTs, please visit our website or join our growing community on Discord. We genuinely believe we couldn't do the things we do without the support of our community and listeners like you. So thank you. We'll see you again soon.